To understand difficult passages of this kind, you need to translate them into your own words, to build a bridge, in effect, between the passage's unfamiliar terms and ones more familiar to you. Building such a bridge should help you connect what you already know to what the author is saying, and will then help you move from reading to writing, providing you with some of the language you will need to summarize the text. One major challenge in translating the author's words into your own, however, is to stay true to what the author is actually saying, avoiding what we call the closest cliché syndrome, in which one mistakes the commonplace idea for an author's more complex one, mistaking Butler's critique of the concept of woman, for instance, for the common idea that women must have equal rights. The work of complex writers like Butler, who frequently challenge conventional thinking, cannot always be collapsed into the types of ideas most of us are already familiar with. Therefore, when you translate, do not try to fit the ideas of such writers into your pre-existing beliefs, but instead allow your own views to be challenged. In building a bridge to the writers you read, it is often necessary to meet those writers more than halfway. So what, then, does Butler's opening say? Translating Butler's words into terms that are easier to understand, we can see that the first sentence says that for many feminists today, the indeterminacy of gender, the inability to define the essence of sexual identity, spells the end of feminism. That for many feminists, the inability to define gender, presumably the building block of the feminist movement, means serious trouble for feminist politics. In contrast, the second sentence suggests that this same trouble need not be thought of in such negative terms, that the inability to define femininity, or gender trouble, as Butler calls it in her book's title, may not be such a bad thing, and, as she goes on to argue in the pages that follow, may even be something that feminist activists can profit from. In other words, Butler suggests highlighting uncertainties about masculinity and femininity can be a powerful feminist tool. Pulling all these inferences together, then the opening sentences can be translated as follows. While many contemporary feminists believe that uncertainty about what it means to be a woman will undermine feminist politics, I, Judith Butler, believe that this uncertainty can actually help strengthen feminist politics. Translating Butler's point into our own book's basic move, they say that if we cannot define woman, feminism is in big trouble. But I say that this type of trouble is precisely what feminism needs. Despite its difficulty, then, we hope you agree that this initially intimidating passage does make sense if you stay with it. We hope it is clear that critical reading is a two-way street. It is just as much about being open to the way that writers can challenge you, maybe even transform you, as it is about questioning those writers. And if you translate a writer's argument into your own words as you read, you should allow the text to take you outside the ideas that you already hold and to introduce you to new terms and concepts. Even if you end up disagreeing with an author, you first have to show that you have really listened to what he or she is saying, have fully grasped his or her arguments, and can accurately summarize those arguments. Without such deep, attentive listening, any critique you make will be superficial and decidedly uncritical. It will be a critique that says more about you than about the writer or idea you're supposedly responding to. In this chapter, we have tried to show that reading for the conversation means looking not just for the thesis of a text in isolation, but for the view or views that motivate that thesis, the they say. We have also tried to show that reading for the conversation means being alert for the different strategies writers use to engage the views that are motivating them, since not all writers engage other perspectives in the same way. Some writers explicitly identify and summarize a view they are responding to at the outset of their text and then return to it frequently as their text unfolds. Some refer only obliquely to a view that is motivating them, assuming that readers will be able to reconstruct that view on their own. Other writers may not explicitly distinguish their own view from the views they are questioning in ways that all of us find clear, leaving some readers to wonder whether a given view is the writer's own or one that he or she is challenging. And some writers push off against the they say as motivating them in a challenging academic language that requires readers to translate what they are saying into more accessible, everyday terms. And some, then, Though most persuasive writers do follow a controversial they say I say pattern, they do so in a great variety of ways. What this means for readers is that they need to be armed with various strategies for detecting the conversations in what they read, even when those conversations are not self-evident.